Hello and welcome to Sports by Northwest, the sports podcast from the Oregonian and Oregon Live. I am Bill Oram, sports columnist at the Oregonian, and this week my guest is a very familiar face in Portland sports. It is head coach Bruce Barnum of the Portland State Football Vikings. Bruce, how are you today?
Hey, Bill. Excellent. Doing great. Thanks for having us, the Vikes. And I'm kind of curious to hear how since you landed, how your Portland experience is. So I got some questions for you too.
Oh, I'm excited to get into those. And, I feel, we've met before, we've talked before, and I feel awkward calling you Bruce. How many people on the planet call you Bruce versus Barny?
Well, when it's Bruce, I know it's either they don't know me, it's a first contact, or we're not friends, I guess. But no, my dad was kind of the same way. My dad's name is George A. Barnum, and I don't know anybody. Anytime somebody called and asked for George, his name's Bud. Everybody calls him Bud. But I don't know how it came along. But it's kind of firing back because I nickname most people too, just so I can remember who they are.
So this landed.
You can call me whatever the hell you want, man.
I like Barney just fine, or Bud. So this lands at a perfect time because yesterday was signing day, which is always a big day on the football coaching calendar. I'm actually surprised to see that you're still at home the day after signing day. I figured you'd be on a lake somewhere warm, with some bait in the pond. But it was a big signing day for the Vikes, and kind of what got my attention is you tweeted yesterday the 247 sports rankings in FCS. And for people who haven't had a chance to hear about your recruiting class, it's listed as number one in the Big Sky Conference, the number one class west of the Mississippi, according to 247, and the number 3 FCS class overall in the country. And this gets our attention, Bruce, because you have Barney, because you have the Portland State football program has certainly had its struggles, it has its obstacles. What did you guys do right this year to get that sort of praise and attention on your recruiting class? And I think there were also some changes you made with your staff that might have contributed as well. So can you walk us through those?
Well, staff changes the biggest one. I'm going to lose something, Bill, here that I found it many years ago. Then I made a decision this year to try to get ahead of the Joneses in recruiting. I know what we don't have, at Portland State. I needed to find a way to beat my opponents. And AC Patterson, number one. AC Patterson, I hired him before he walked. I knew him. His dad's a coach. He's been around football all his life. His dad's with the Giants right now. He's just lived football, and he is a master. He went back to Minnesota when Zim got released. I bought him back with every dime I could find. AC Patterson should not be at my place. AC Patterson should be in the SEC, the Pac-12. And don't get me wrong, when I lose him, it'll be brutal. But he is the reason that happened. And I hope Lanning and Smitty and DeBoer, I hope they're all listening because they're missing out. I don't care how good their recruiters are that they currently have on staff. AC is connected. He's got a memory, and he's a hell of a judge of talent. So what I did from there, I hired a guy that all he does is recruit for us. FCS doesn't have that. The FBS does. I hired Terry Davis and TD. We put him out on the road, and it became information was just there. Video was just there. We already had a relationship with student athletes, but those two keys, I had to get ahead somehow, and that's how I did it, and it paid off.
You look at your recruiting class, you have some FBS transfers, certainly some freshmen, some in-state guys. And one thing I've always wondered about, at least in the last couple of years since the transfer portal has changed, and I went to the University of Montana, which is a rival of everybody else in the Big Sky Conference. But one thing that they always benefited from during their heyday was the so-called drop-down transfer, right, where guys could transfer from a Pac-12 school and have immediate eligibility by playing at the FCS or what was previously 1AA. That's more or less gone, where guys don't have the incentive to go to FCS. You could transfer from Alabama to Syracuse and be eligible right away. Has that had an impact on your ability to go get guys from bigger schools, or do they see the opportunity to play? And how much has that changed in the last couple of years?
Well, this is hit college football, right, Bill? You follow this. It's a new world. The county fair changed, but how it's affected me, and I thought this was unique because I wasn't sure. We're kind of wading, through the waters and trying to get this. We're getting poached from the FBS guys. They're poaching my guys. It's all there. But what it's doing is now the big boys are just trading people through the portal. It opened up a higher caliber talent of high school student athletes for the FCS. Myself, and I'm sure every FCS school. They're not getting taken. High school kids are panicking. Right. Because, I'm just taking your backup or starting quarterback from, school A. And then we're trading, and mine's leaving, and he's going to your school. I mean, so we snuck in, and those high school kids are sitting there like, oh, my gosh, I'm not going to have a scholarship. What am I going to do? Junior college? Well, sure, but I thought I was better than that. Portland State calls, FCS calls. Bam, scholarship. And their high school coaches, we saw this. Their high school coaches are pulling them in and saying, take this immediately. So that was new. That was pretty cool for us.
So you mentioned having a full-time recruiting coordinator and that being unique at this level. You have a new athletic director this year as well. And, there have been various efforts, within the department to improve facilities on campus. And, I spoke with John Johnson earlier this year and late last year. And one thing that stands out, right, is he is a football guy. His experience is in football. He has built stadiums at this level. He was at Eastern Washington. I believe you two crossed paths at Eastern Washington. Is that correct?
We did. Bill, he was my big brother. I was a snot-nosed freshman, and I came in, and he was the governor. He's about a 10th year senior. And he was at the end of the locker room. It was kind of a long deal with 2 rows. He had 2 lockers open next to him. And he called me over one day. I go up, and he said, hey, I'm your big brother. And everybody else's big brothers are taking him to dinner, taking him home for the weekend, taking him to a party, taking him fishing. He said, I met your family. He said, you're a pretty mature kid. He said, let me know what you need. And I never talked to him again. That was the end of my big brother relationship. So he called on the job, actually, Bill. I said, hey, what's going on, Barney? How you doing? Because we have mutual friends that were there at the same time, Mac, Wayne, and a couple guys. Anyway, I said, what do you want, big brother? I said, I'm not giving you any damn information. He's like, I really scarred you, didn't I? I said, you're damn right. I was there by myself. Anyway, we do we have Eastern. We were both at Eastern Washington. He played, I didn't, but I probably had more fun.
Has that has that big brother, little brother relationship? I assume you talk more now than you did in those playing days.
Oh, much more.
And how is that kind of connection helped or impacted his role now at PSU?
Well, it's great. I've had a few ADs and a few presidents, but it's cool to talk football. He's focused football. He knows exactly what I need. He doesn't even have to ask. Once he got the information, he's rolling. Now, he's knee-deep in 20 things right now with budget and facilities and coaches and staff. But it's cool when he's talking about stadium, where would we want it, office space, weight room, everything a football coach wants to hear.
One thing when we talk stadium, right, you guys have played at Hillsborough Stadium for the last few years. I know that's a great facility for you guys. I mean, you got the logo on the field. There's a lot there's a lot to be said about Hillsborough Stadium. It's not, for those of us who've been around the Big Sky Conference, there are worse places to play football in the Big Sky Conference than Hillsborough Stadium. That said, it is quite apparently not close to campus. It's not downtown Portland, which is one of the great selling points of Portland State as a university. And I know a lot of people at Portland State hate this conversation too, but if you and John Johnson are having conversations from time to time about stadium, what are the goals, and what do those conversations look like in this first year that he's been there?
Well, I've spoken my piece and then kind of left it, Bill. Obviously, I'd like to be back in Providence or Civic, whatever. It's had a bunch of names and a bunch of sponsors. I know the Merritt deal. I know he was a mess. I heard we are getting one back, possibly this year, one game back there. That's where I want to be. What a beautiful venue.
Yeah.
Top venue in the Big Sky, that place. It will rival the Grizz. I'll put that stadium up against anybody. But, that's easy. I'd put the high schools and us back in there. But that's easiest. Other than that, I want it on campus. There's a place on campus that could turn our practice field. I think I kind of showed it to you when you were out there. Turn it right there and make it multi-use. Every sport we have, every intramural team, who wants to use it, and put it right there. There's always an answer. Well, no parking. Well, there's no parking right now either. So, people will find a place. But that's the two places I'd like it to have. The partnership with Lincoln didn't work out. People got into battles financially, so I think that's over. But I think that's the two most. If we're gonna get closer, that's the two easiest ways to do it.
So you grew up in Vancouver, Washington, right? That's home for you.
That's where my dad retired.
Okay, so Portland State. I'm curious how you viewed them as a football player coming out of high school. They were not in the Big Sky Conference Division I AA yet, and this predated sort of the Pokey Allen heyday as well, right? It was kind of early '80s, and Pokey came along in the later '80s.
Pokey Allen was my TV. Pokey Allen was here. That's the guy you saw on TV riding elephants. Having the crowd choose a play, wrestling a bear, driving he was at PIR driving a dragster, and that was it. And then Wayland, there's a guy, a newscaster, who at the end of every Ed Wayland, and he was, he had a funny presentation. Mm-hmm. At the end of every one of his sportscasts, probably twice a week, and let's check up on Pokey. And they'd have him doing something. He'd be dressed like Evel Knievel. But that was it, and they had me over, and I chose somewhere different because of the money. It was half here and full somewhere else, but it was a pretty cool spot. Is knowing
kind of the way Pokey connected with the community and made Portland State kind of an event, and like you said, he was a character. There are people, I'm sure, who would describe you as a character, and you've done things like buy beer for everybody at a PSU game if they'd come out. Have a beer on Barny. That's been well documented. Is there something you take from Pokey's tenure and kind of the way he connected with the community that you try to bring into the way you don't just coach your football team, but the way you run the Portland State Vikings football program?
Right. When I first got the job, Bill, yes. I knew it. That's what I knew. I had Mouse with me. He was at my first football game. I tried to keep him. I wanted Mouse on every trip. Tried to hire Mouse.
Sure.
As a coach, he said no. I tried to hire him as a fundraiser. He said no. I tried to hire him as just a guy eating lunch with us. But he wanted to golf. So I knew that. Mike Lund, our SID, when it came down to it, and as a head coach, you're finding your way. Here's my institution, strengths, weaknesses. Mike Lund finally called me and said, just be yourself. Just be yourself. I think this will be unique. Now, that's got me in trouble, Billy. That's a back and forth deal. It's cost me money. It's had people, they either love you or hate you, especially now with the internet. They want a good post, right? And a good argument. That's all that damn thing's worth. But it's livened it up. But, everything I do, I relate it to what Pokey did, just because I remember it. Every night on the news, my dad and mom made us watch the news. That was your contemporary world problems class back then. But that was it. You heard Pokey, so it was pretty cool meeting him and all that.
So you have sons you have kids who play college sports, right?
Yes, one's done, one's finished. Brody's actually back at Chapel Hill right now, North Carolina. He wants to be an athletic director.
Okay.
Good for him. He's happy. That's all I really care about. I don't care what my kids do, but they're happy right now. And then Cooper was playing baseball like Brody at Washington State. They called him in and said, "We're bringing in 12 guys. You guys will never play here." 11 of them stayed and said, "Yes, we will." Cooper jumped in the portal and said, "No, I won't." He had some offers at the end of the summer, but he's playing football for the Grizz right now. He came in. That was quite a summer meeting with mom, Cooper and dad. He said, "I'm not playing baseball anymore." We're like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to play for Coach Houck on my Grizz." And I said, "You little punk." He said, "No. He says, Dad," he goes, and he was right. And he said, "You told Brody and I, if we play college football, to have the best experience, we're not playing for you." And, I did. I preached it since I taught him how to long snap. That's all I really taught him sports-wise. But and he's right. Anyway, he's happy, Bill. So I don't, again, I don't care what they're doing, where they're at. They're happier. He's different. Brody and him are night and day, yin and yang. I mean, Cooper, they have practice at 4, and Cooper's sending pictures of two of his buddies, out in the duck blind. Two different birds, but they're happy, period. Sorry to drag that out.
No, that's great. And I hesitate to bring this up.
Anything
but
goes.
September 24th, 2022 in Missoula, Montana, the Grizzlies beat you guys 53-16.
They Auburned us.
I just want to know. I just want to know what Thanksgiving's like. What are the bragging rights like when Cooper's got 53-16 to hang over you? What's that like?
Well, first off, what a unique game. We're with them. My quarterback gets banged up again, so we're getting some meat on him. He went into the game 176. I currently have my quarterback at 191.8. So trying to fix the issues. But they Auburned us. I was in awe of that game. At the end of the second quarter, we kick, I thought, a normal, regular chance at a, maybe 35, 37-yard field goal. It was about 37 yards short. Robbie Houck caught it and returned it for a touchdown. And I'm sitting there going, what are we doing? How did this turn? And then they scored again. Anyway, and you know what? This is those times you'd like to send this video to Coach Houck and tell him I'd like to punch him in the neck. They gave Cooper the game ball, because it was the first game he played, and he beat Dad's team. And so he was going to give it to me for Christmas, and he forgot it. And he said, "I'm going to keep it." I said, "I don't want that ball." I said, "I'll pop it."
That is probably for the best. So, so this is indicative of kind of your tenure. You took the Vikings to the playoffs in your first year, second round, had, signature wins, including at Washington State on the road. And, it's been a grind since then. I think we're in year 7 since then,
Probably
since
7.
year 8.
Yep.
I can go through it and, 3-8, 0-11, 4-7, 5-7, pandemic year, 5-6, 4-7 last year. What's it going to take to win at Portland State?
Right now, what I'm attacking, Bill, because I think we've lost that first year. Again, this is what I'm addressing, because I know the same thing you do. I want to win games. That's more fun. I don't care what we don't have. But that first year, we had a culture, a mantra. Those kids were playing for one thing, and it was getting Barnum a contract. That was it. It was Barney ball. They did everything just because they knew I was, I had a 1-year gig, and if we didn't win, we were getting fired, and we hadn't won. That brought a group together. I've had the seniors or my leadership council come to me. I'm looking not for that, but I'm looking the best way to bring this team back together. I think we've been here. I know we've been on scooters, injured, and I don't have the depth, others have. But I've also thought I had the COVID year and the year after when I had that quarterback that's with Alouettes right now, Davis Alexander. I thought I had a playoff team. Yeah. I did. If you're going to take 5 from the Big Sky, we're one of them. But I couldn't stay healthy. And my backup wasn't as strong. That's why with this recruiting class, I said enough because I loaded up on O-line, D-line, 10, and I just signed another one today, 11. So got the path. I need to get I made some changes. You mentioned it in staff. I'm going to change some systems now on the football field that our fans will see next year. I'm looking for that way. But I agree. Don't get me wrong. The Big Sky Conference is it's hard to win in this conference, but on the other side, we can win every one of them just like everybody else. Got to get them to believe, Bill.
Being a football coach is about more than wins and losses. It is, of course, how we judge every football coach, and it is kind of how we, it's how careers get determined. But you have, in your tenure, navigated some just incredibly difficult human life circumstances with your team, where you've had players who have died, you've had players who have, been charged with crimes, you've had family members of players died very tragically, and it seems to be one of your strengths or gifts to help your program navigate those really terrible situations. And I'm curious, when things like that arise, how would you view your role, and what is your approach when your football team is suffering in that sense?
Well, I don't like talking about myself, Bill, but people have told me I'm a player's coach for whatever that's worth. And because I can listen and not take jabs, and I know the game doesn't define who I am, I've probably been in the seat longer than some of the guys, who think we should be winning like Alabama want me. But on this one, I'm going to speak on Portland State University. My personality, sure, but that's what people, say is how it happens. But Portland State University, the support they've had in those times with Michelle Topi, with people involved in our program, because, I've been through different presidents, we're getting another one. Mm-hmm. I've been through different athletic directors. But our support with Marcy Hunt, she's in our shack area to help talk to anybody but our students at the university and my student athletes. Topi, they have this group, I don't know what they call themselves, but it's for when things happen, they come together and they find the best answers. And I tell you what, without them, I don't know what I would have done. I've been making things up. They guided me. It made sense to me, and that's what I presented to my team and the public. And then I kind of ran with it because there's been a lot that's happened here. So their training, I guess, has helped me get to today talking to you on this machine.
I know machines aren't your favorite things. I mean, I alluded to it at the beginning of the podcast on a significantly lighter note. How quickly will you be getting out on the lake fishing, and where's the first stop of the spring?
First off, I got a lot to do. But we have spring ball, Bill. Now we're looking in the portal. Once the dust settles, we're going to do portal. I need to hire a couple coaches, key ones. So I've been working on that. I've got some guys on the line. And right now I'm waiting to see if a guy's going to go to the New York Jets or Barnum's Portland State Vikings. So those are the things I'm waiting for. Okay, who's next? Yada yada.
The wardrobe's basically the same.
It is, and so is the game. It's just a lot faster, compared to us in the mighty NFL. Usually that time, I try to get out before the spawn or during the spawn of smallmouth on the river, the Columbia River. I drive where there's not a lot of boats because I do like privacy. I deal with people all day, which is fun. I enjoy it. But when I'm on that boat, Bill, I like it just to be a little more private. So we drive north, or not north. We drive east on the river. I can't tell you my spot. Well, I'll tell you where we put in. We put in usually, if we have time, just above the John Day River or dam, right at the mouth of the river. And from there, my top secret spots that I've found produce smallmouth like they do on the TV shows when you watch those guys weighing them and winning $1 million.
Are you the only coach in coaches have, they've got their contracts with Nike and, Under Armour, and they've got Under Armour head to toe. And, right now you've got your PFG hat from Columbia, obvious connection with Tim Boyle. Any other football coach in the country coaching in Columbia fishing gear?
No. He's got a couple race drivers. He's got some big time guys. He's got some guy that sings country music. My kids know him. I can't remember his name. But no, there's two people that take care of this program at a high level. That's Phil, the shoe guy. He helps us out, not with cash. He helps us out with, I call it space cash from Nike. But he takes care of us. He does our uniforms, etc. Yep. He's great. And then then Tim, I don't know why Tim likes me, but we get along. We have John Gotti coffee, about once a month. He's got this little coffee spot we meet. And him and Joe as kids, they put me in, fishing gear. So, and it fits, fat guys, you need stuff that fits. And I put this on. They got black. Better yet, you can't see fat stuff. And I haven't had a chance because of recruiting to get my hair cut, so they got me a hat. Yeah. So I can wear it during your podcast.
Yeah. It's your mane is a little untamed there.
Come on. You can't, we're podding. We can't talk like that.
What was I first of all, I'm gonna probably get about a week's worth of, a boost just off of Phil, the shoe guy. That is.
Oh, who he is.
I do. Former Portland State professor.
Yeah.
And and his famous logo was produced by a Portland State student. So it all comes back to the Vikes.
What's unique? What's unique with him, Bill? Everybody probably knows this, but every time I do speak with him or email, it's all about. I find this interesting. All that everybody else probably knows about him. He is so focused on management, and motivation of employees. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's what he asked me. He doesn't ask me about football, or I think he thinks I'm crazy, or he used the word unique once in my personality, but that's all he wants to know. He wants to talk management, how I do this with staff. It's pretty interesting.
Have you read his book?
I read parts of it, not all of it.
Okay, there's a lot of that in there as well. It's kind
of
gives you the sense of like his business philosophy, and kind of it all makes sense, like how it happened when you kind of see it in that packaging.
Gotcha. Like I said, everybody else probably already knows it.
Okay, so I am a lightly recruited offensive lineman from a 3A high school on the Oregon coast, and I'm weighing a couple of options. I might go play at Montana Tech in Butte because I got some Irish heritage. I might go play at Central Washington. I'm thinking about walking on at Oregon State, but I probably don't have much of a shot. Or Bruce Barnum has a scholarship for me at Portland State. In light of your great recruiting wins, sell me on PSU. Get me to the park blocks.
Okay. Food. We're going to feed you on your official trip. We're going to feed you and take care of you in those regards. You're going to be happy. A lot of people, they eat to, beat depression. I'm going to brag about my school because right now, even though enrollment's down, etc., my business school rivals anybody. And right now that seems to be one of the answers. Don't get me wrong. I get some engineers, I get other, criminal justice. The majority of recruits right now say business. If they say that, I've got them. Because our business school, it's ranked. I mean, it's ranked above some Ivies, which is an eye opener. So we pull them in with that. And then my people in my weight room. Don't get me wrong. Stott Center is it's a beautiful basketball court. We use it as much as we can to feed our kids, study hall, etc. But that weight room, when we show it, I make sure you see it a lot. And that's it. We feed you on the veranda of it, I call it, in the upper level, twice. And you look down at Saturday Market, the action down there. So it looks like, you're walking in France about to get on a boat. Everybody's happy, eating a burrito, a biscuit from Pine Street. But that's how we start you. And then we corral you. And if you look at our thing, and this is where the youth of my staff helps. We make sure when you go down, we have a photo shoot. And we are, I think, more unique with that than we try to be, than any FCS school. We only have one camera, I'm sure those guys. But we have used the drones before. I have 3 drones that we buzzed around there. The kids love their stuff on social media. So we take advantage of that. So you're from, you said, a beach town. We're going to put you with Jaws, right? You're going to be on the set of Jaws, whatever you want as a football player. Anyway, we take advantage of that, and then we go. But the relationships at the end, the relationships my staff gets with these recruits, that's why it's going to be hard for you to tell my staff no, because they actually care about you, and you can see it.
How many times are you seeing a local kid play on a Friday night if he's within driving distance?
Well, we try to see her, but you have to be careful now because you can only see them, you have to follow NCAA. You can't see every one of their games. So we try to time up the games. Okay, they're playing this team, so let's go to that one. For instance, last year, I waited for the first Westland Sheldon game, before I went and saw our student athletes that we were recruiting, PSAs, I guess they're called, from those 2 schools. Because if we do it then, we can't see them in the playoffs. So you have to gauge, okay, who's going to be in the playoffs? So you have to juggle that. But we try to get to everybody we can.
All right. Well, it's obviously manifested itself in, what is a celebrated recruiting class for you guys. We'll see how it comes together next year and in the 4 and 5 years, I guess, kind of that you coach those guys up. But it seems like sort of an inflection point for your program. Seems like you have had a little bit of a shift mentally and in terms of approach, and excited to see what it means for the future of your program. Thanks for coming on the podcast and for sharing your wisdom and for dropping Phil the shoe guy.
No, Bill, thanks for having us. And honestly, you're right. Now the work starts. Those stars and rankings. I mean, I'm kind of personally on the side of the other people. What the hell does this mean? That's what I tell my people, because now we need to get them there and develop them and get it going. But it tells everybody that hears anything about Portland State, we're out there. There's another thing. What's it called? Picture. There's noise about Portland State, and it gives everybody, they know that we have a chance. Portland State has a chance. At least they have some dudes. So anyway, thanks for having us.
We'll see those dudes. We'll see those dudes on. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I was late podding up. This Google Chrome, you threw me off. I push Yahoo and things come up, but you messed me on that one.
Well, I apologize. It was my pleasure. And you say you got some dudes. We'll look forward to seeing them starting on September 2nd at Autzen against the small school down in Eugene. So
how about that? How about that first start?
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you down there. And thanks so much for the time. Barny, Coach Bruce Barnum, thank you so much for the time.
All right. Thanks, Bill.